A mechanic pulls a BMW out of a garage for a bank heist that is supposed to go down. The getaway driver, who calls himself Wheelman, has a major problem because he specifically asked for the car to be in full black, but as it is, the trunk of the car is bright red. The mechanic simply tells him that he did as he was told and leaves. Wheelman has no choice but to jump in, as the heist is about to go down. He presses the car down the road, hearing the engine come to life and showing off some expert driving skills. He tries to reach out to his friend Clay, who hired him for the job, trying to get the drop-off location, but only gets voicemail and is forced to leave a message. He then gets a call from his daughter Katie, who wants to go out to a club as she is at his place for the weekend, but when Wheelman learns that her boyfriend Ryan is driving her, he refuses to let her go and orders her to stay in, but she insists on going out and hangs up. Wheelman gets to the pickup location for two other accomplices that Clay hired for the job, and once they get in, he is off again. One of the men then insists on starting small talk, wanting to know Wheelman's name, but Wheelman simply tells him that if it's not about the job, then he can keep his mouth shut. The guy tries talking to the other robber, but all the dude cares about is his money and nothing more. They get to a bank and the men mask up and jump out. Wheelman then gets a call from the handler who hired Clay. Wheelman asks him for the drop as the guys are currently robbing the bank, but the handler suddenly tells Wheelman that once the others load the money in the trunk, he is to leave them behind, or they will kill him. He refuses at first, but is not sure who to trust, and once the men load the cash, Wheelman takes off, leaving them behind. He tries calling for Clay again but gets some girl who does not know where Clay went. The handler calls back and Wheelman insists that he wants to talk to Clay, but is told to follow the instructions or they will kill him. He is ordered to count the money right there, and he pulls to a safe spot and does a quick count of around 200 grand. The handler insists that he wants the exact amount, pissing Wheelman off, but he goes to count it once more. This time, unknown to him, a biker glances in his direction before slowly pulling away. Wheelman counts 230 grand and the handler tells him to sit tight, but Wheelman takes off. Out of nowhere he gets a message saying that he and Clay are dead. The handler calls back, "Yeah, get ready for a whole lot of that." Turns out the handler knows he pulled away and tells him to get to a place called Chandler Station, and not to take any more phone calls. Katie calls back, saying that she is at home, but when he hears Ryan in the background she hangs up. He then sees a cop car pull up behind him and he is ready to book it, but it turns out to be nothing. Clay finally calls, and this is the kind of dude you do not want to do a heist with. Wheelman tells him he was ordered to leave the men behind. It turns out Clay has no idea who the handler is, had an idea that the handler would double-cross him, plus the two guys he put in the car were complete strangers to him. Wheelman thinks that Clay is either very dumb or is setting him up, and Clay insists he isn't setting him up, so you know what that means. Clay insists that once he makes the drop then everything should be fine. Katie then calls right after and Wheelman demands to talk to Ryan. He tries to be reasonable, telling Ryan that his daughter needs a friend, and not her cheeks demolished, and tells him to leave by 9 and Ryan agrees. Wheelman gets to Chandler Station ready to make the drop, but the handler again is on some bullcrap and tells Wheelman that he is making an exchange instead of a drop. Wheelman gets to a dark alley, where he sees two guys slowly approaching the car. Now not sure what to think or who to trust, Wheelman takes off again, now pissed at himself for even taking this mission. He calls Clay, revealing that he thinks he is being used to run illegal substances. Turns out Clay knew that instead of a drop it was supposed to be an exchange but said nothing to Wheelman. Clay refuses to tell the name of the handler or his location, as he fears what might happen to him. To try and save his own ass, Clay then turns on Wheelman, saying that he will lie that Wheelman stole the cash and hangs up. Now double-crossed by his own friend, and on the run with a ton-load of cash, Wheelman keeps moving to save his own ass. He gets to a tunnel where a few gangsters in a van begin taunting him, but Wheelman pulls an AK, and they dip like chips in ranch. He then sees a biker closing in behind him, then gets another call from the handler. He doesn't let the handler speak though, and warns that he will drop the money, tell him where it is, and if he calls again he'll burn every dollar. Wheelman stops in the tunnel and the biker stops behind him but does not come any closer. Wheelman flashes his AK out the window and then slowly begins to pull forward. He calls Clay again, this time demanding a name or else he's dead. Clay then tells him to return to Chandler Station. Wait, how did you know that he went to Chandler Station, Clay? Clay hangs up right after, making Wheelman suspect that he is in on this. As he drives, another message from an unknown number comes in, warning him that they will kill Clay and find him, because he stole their money. The handler calls back, warning that he is going to get hurt, when gunshots begin to rip through the back glass. Wheelman books it and the biker starts racing after him, shooting at the car. Wheelman leads him on a high-speed chase through the city, and with expert driving, he causes the biker to crash. Wheelman arrives at the bar where Clay normally hangs out and pulls around to the back. He grabs his AK and enters the building, and soon he is dragging Clay out of the bar, pinning him on the hood of the car. Willman forces him into the car while holding off the rest of the guys who came out to check. He drives out with Clay when he gets another call from a stranger, telling him that he hijacked his bank job, and now he and Clay are both dead. A car blocks their path and a man opens fire on the car, forcing Wheelman to book it. Once they get to a safe location, Clay tells him that the man who just shot at them is the man who hired them for the job, but the handler that Wheelman has been talking to all night is a member of the Philly mob, who offered Clay a lot of money to hijack the cash. Wheelman then realizes that this is between two mobs, the West End and the Philly mob, who are both trying to get their hands on the cash. Wheelman plans to get straight with the West End guys, since they took care of him when he was in the pen. He plans to give Clay 20 grand to offer to the Philly guys, but Clay, realizing that he will probably be killed, tries to end his life but ends up just shooting through the side of his face. Wheelman demands to know who the handler is as Clay is dying, but his subscription ends before he can say another word. Wheelman pushes Clay out of the car, then takes off, leaving him there. The Philly guy calls back, revealing that he knows everything about Wheelman and he knows his wife and daughter. Instantly Wheelman tries calling Katie but gets voicemail. He finally gets through to her, telling her to take his car and leave the house, and get to another location. He calls his ex-wife, telling her to leave the house immediately, but this woman will not shut up for a second and listen, and Wheelman listens as men barge into the house and attack her. He pulls to the side of the road. Philly guy calls back, threatening to hurt Jessica if he does not stay where he is. The West End man then calls, warning that there will be blood if the cash does not return to him. Wheelman tells him about the Philly guys, and that they have his wife, so West End guy offers to help him out of his situation. But first he needs his cash. Wheelman thinks that it's all about the money with West End guy, but learns that losing that money also means he loses his family, so they decide to work together for the time being. He tells Wheelman to set up an exchange with the Philly guy and give him the location so they can ambush him. Wheelman calls the Philly guy, giving him the drop location and warning that he will burn the money if he smells a setup. He tells the West End guy about the spot and he is on his way to kill the Philly guy. Suddenly an SUV smashes into the car, temporarily disabling the engine. A man jumps out, opening fire on the car, and Wheelman grabs his AK and hits him with a few rounds. The man tries to escape in his car, but Wheelman finishes him off and he crashes. Wheelman pulls a distance away, then stops by the side of the road. He searches through the bags and finds a tracker, realizing that's how he was being found. He pulls over in an alley, grabs the bags and leaves the car behind. He walks to the spot where he told Katie to meet him with his car. He loads the bags in and the two set off, and Kate sees the blood on him and thinks he is hurt. He tells her that he has to deliver the bags to someone and she freaks out, saying that he is going to go to prison again, but he has no choice and tells her to get it together. He gets to the drop spot, gives her his wallet and tells her to take the car and leave him behind. Katie breaks down in tears, not wanting to leave her dad, but he tries to reassure her that everything will be fine, and that he loves her dearly before he grabs the bags and sets off. Katie gathers herself and begins to drive away, but cannot bring herself to leave her dad and heads to a spot where she can see the deal. She sees the men release her mom, but Wheelman attacks the men with a Molotov cocktail and escapes under heavy gunfire. Katie takes off and manages to pick up Wheelman, who tells her that her mom is safe but they need to escape fast. Katie does her best to get away, until Wheelman is able to take over the driving. Once the Philly guy spots them, he squeezes every bit of power out of the Porsche, staying ahead of the men. The West End guy calls back as he does not see them at the spot, but Wheelman is planning to lead the Philly guy right to him. Gunshots begin to ring out. Wheelman keeps the Philly guy on his tail and delivers him right into the ambush, and the gangsters rip the car to shreds and drag the Philly guy out, so the West End guy can finish him off. Wheelman hands over the bag to the gangster, then drives away with no issue. Katie apologizes for not leaving him behind, but he is grateful that she saved his butt, and tells her she did a great job at driving. He drops her off at the restaurant where her mother is, and sees them both reunite, and looks on with a smile on his face. Remember to turn on notifications, so you can watch more movie recaps like this. Thanks for watching.